This has become a serious issue in Canada. The number of people who don't necessarily need to use or are ineligible or should be ineligible to use food banks has been on the rise, and this at a time when Canadians need them the most. Now, I've reported on this before on the channel about international students coming to Canada and then bragging about all the free food they get by using the food bank. Yes, as easy as taking food from the poor was a video that I put out several months back, and many people have been talking about this. Immigration is extremely important to Canada's oh, wow, they're using our food banks. Yeah, that's right. And not only that, bragging about it, going onto YouTube, going onto social media to talk about this. You type in how to get free food in Canada, you'll see nothing but international students, and you guessed it, other commentators talking about international students coming to Canada and talking and specifically pointing out that they're getting free food from the food banks and using it as another way of getting their food, other than what they should do, which is well, under contract from immigration, they need to be able to take care of themselves, and people are pointing this out. And now food banks are starting to turn people away, and it's becoming a thing. This is from Table Salt on X saying, "Oh my goodness, oh my God, this is a way worse than I thought. International students come here with backpacks and raid the place. Some have $60,000 in the bank," says this food bank employee.
Food banks have never been as important as they are today. In March, 2 million people used a Canadian food bank. But now some food banks aren't accommodating everyone anymore, and one type of client may no longer be welcome.
Is all these young kids coming with their backpacks saying they want help.
Here at St. Louis Outreach Food Bank in Brampton, students from outside the country aren't served anymore.
But they're just raiding anywhere to get anything they can. We can't handle that, you know? No, everyone's running out of food.
Food Bank has a whiteboard out front during opening hours. It says government regulations allow it to exclude international students. But is there a policy? Somebody was telling my colleague that there's a policy.
I think it's on the window, sir.
The policy?
Yes.
The food bank posts a copy of what the government expects of international students coming to study here, that they be self-sufficient. Kenny, a Nigerian student who says he has
Before we get into this, yes, of course, this is actually part of the immigration status. If you cannot be self-sufficient, you are expected to go home. If you can't take care of yourself, it's not incumbent on the Canadian population to give to you charity when you're coming to Canada to utilize our educational facilities. This is out of your own pocket. That's the whole point of you even coming here. But we know in recent times that people have been using the temporary student visas as a backdoor to migration, to immigration, to get into Canada and then later become citizens. But if this is the first thing you're doing, sorry, but we have poor people, and you know, we want to try to fix the situation with having poor people. We don't need to bring more poor people in, or people who are going to rely on our social safety net. But here's this Nigerian guy who came to Canada, doesn't want to see his face being shown, but this is what he had to say.
The wife and daughter showed up for food. He asked that his face not be shown. I asked why he didn't come with enough money.
I had a projection of how I was going to spend the money I came in here with, but probably I didn't plan well. I don't know if I didn't plan well. I don't know if the economy was the opposite of what I thought it was.
The food bank's board president.
If you didn't plan well, it's not on us to remedy your situation. You have an alternative plan, which is a plane ticket, which you should have purchased, because this is also part of temporary status, is to have a means to get home, to get back to where you can go back to doing the things that you'd be fine. You were fine before you came. You should be fine in going back. But this is where we're at here.
It says they were told some international students have money in the bank.
There's been a lot of abuse with people that come with $50,000, $60,000 in the bank, and they just want to get free food.
With 2,600 local families to help feed, she says the international students are too much. Food banks have seen foreign videos like this one online describing food banks as a place to get free food.
So it's kind of a trend now that everyone's actually been advertised to just come here and immediately come to our doors. And we are bombarded.
Kenny is looking for another place to get help.
I'll have to go home and find a way to survive.
Yeah, no problem. Head on home, and I hope you do well. I hope you do very well, Kenny. But also in Vancouver, Metro Vancouver Food Bank has made a new policy that first year temporary students are completely exempt from using the food banks at all. And people are saying that this is unfair.
The Greater Vancouver Food Bank says that they are not going to provide any food to any international students who are studying in their first year, which is really, really awful.
International student activist Jaskiran Singh says he doesn't agree with the Greater Vancouver Food Bank's policy to not offer their services to international students in their first year, a barrier he says will make life harder for students new to the country.
Just before we get into this, if you're coming to Canada to better yourself, to get yourself into a new life, and you've saved up your money to go to college, you are not to be using our charities. You are not a charity case. You are coming over to use our facilities. If you can't afford it, then you can't come. This is why they make sure you have enough money in the bank to take care of yourself. And this is a line that needs to be drawn in the sand. If you're coming over as a migrant, as someone who, and this is temporary, it's supposed to be temporary, that's the whole point behind it, you need to abide by the rules. You need to abide by the rules that are set out. And the whole point of putting those rules is that you don't become a charity case in Canada, and you have the means to not only survive while you're here, but return when you're finished. And that's that.
If we want to help international students, this is the one thing which we can get rid of.
City News reached out to the CEO of the GVFB, but they weren't available to comment or confirm this policy regarding international students. However, according to a recent Langara Voice article, the GVFB says the policy exists because the federal government requires international students to have substantial savings before coming to Canada.
The Vancouver Food Bank has this policy saying, well, they're supposed to have some money saved, so we're not going to give them or allow them to get food from the food bank for a year. It's really a problem.
According to federal guidelines, international students applying for a study permit this year will have to show they have access to just over $20,000 to qualify, to prevent exploitation and student vulnerability.
Well, it's the exploitation of Canadian charity that we're talking about here. It's not exploitation of them. Well, of course, if people are being exploited, don't come. Don't come. And this is a big issue here in Canada, and it's become a big issue because there's been these scams to bring over these students from different places. There are lawyers making a ton of money. There are educational facilities making a ton of money, and we're talking fly-by-night colleges, diploma mills churning out business degrees above a massage parlor in Canada. And this is what's happening. It's become the UN did a study saying that Canada has a slavery problem because of this. If you're coming over, you need to have the means to take care of yourself, or you can't come. This is the reality of the situation, but it's turned political, of course. And Pierre Poilievre commented on Justin Trudeau's new stance, where he says that, we need to send people back, and and we don't know if he's actually gonna follow through with that. And this is what Pierre has to say here.
As for the people who've come here as international students that Trudeau let in record smashing numbers without housing, jobs, admissions letters to real educational institutions, or money to pay their bills, I don't know what's going to happen to them. He claims he's going to be kicking some of them out. He'll never do that. And he can't even control our borders. We can't expect that Justin Trudeau will keep any of these frantic, panicked, last-minute promises that he's making to reverse his earlier decisions. that he's making now when his own MPs are in the Liberal Party are trying to fire him in an election year.
That's right. That's right. And the food professor pointing out Canada's reliance on food banks has reached a grim milestone, surpassing 2 million visits per month for the first time, according to data from Food Banks Canada. Canada's food bank usage monthly visits from 2019 to 2024. Apparently, we don't have any reported data for 2020. A lot was missing from the COVID year. But hey, we'll find out someday perhaps. But starting in 2019, 1 million visits per month, just over. And it's gone up steady to the point now that in 2024, per month, we have over 2 million people going to the food bank. This is ridiculous. And if we have people that are going to the food bank that are not eligible, they're taking away charity from Canadian citizens who, you know, the whole idea of the food bank is for our communities to take care of our communities. If we're talking about foreign students that are temporarily here, sorry, you just can't have it. You just can't have it. A trip to the food bank should be the first thing you do. Perhaps should be to stop at the flight attendant and go to the airport, go online and find out how you can pay for a plane ticket to get home early because you made bad plans in coming to Canada at all. And this is my opinion on this, and I'd love to hear yours in the comments down below. Should temporary Canadian students be allowed to use the food banks at all? In fact, with all the people bragging on social media that they're doing it just to save money, they're doing it just to save, because they only have so much in the bank. They're doing this. They're using Canadian charities to profit, essentially. Should this be allowed, or should they shut it off completely? I don't know. How could they even police that? Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.